There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From the Fourth Line, presented by Offside News. My name is Emma, and I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host Marcie. And today with us, we have the fresh off of the Stadium series. We have Offside's Chicago beat writer and also part-time Leafs beat writer Cody with us today.
Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to join in on this lovely thing that we have going on here.
Yeah, we I think I've said this multiple times on the podcast. I was like, we need to get Cody on because there's very few people at Offsides who are as much of like a CHL sicko as I am, and just a hockey sicko in general. And we've already had Casey on, so
This is a Sickos podcast for Sickos. We need to unite. We need to unionize. We need to
yeah,
write up our own little CBA.
please no more CPA talk. You read it for fun one time, and then everyone goes, Emma, what's this? Emma, explain. But yeah, so you were just at the Stadium Series this past weekend, and
That sure
then
was.
um which is not why I reached out to have you on though, because it was something else. With the elephant in the room is Seth Jones to Florida. Only because no one thought that contract could be moved successfully, but I guess Kyle from Chicago finds a way.
Kyle from Chicago always finds a way.
Other Kyle.
Other Kyle. Two Kyles diverged in a yellow wood. One's trading away Seth Jones, and the other is calling up Tristan Jerry again.
Hey, he signed Finn Harding to an ELC today. Porter Marchone's about to be a Pittsburgh Penguin.
I wish him all the best. Porter from Pittsburgh is about to become the new hockey icon of a generation. Again.
Yeah, again. No, this is just the power forward precursor to the Pittsburgh Penguin generational talent. He is
Of course.
a modern Evgeny Malkin.
A modern Evgeny Malkin. Godspeed, Gavin McKenna, wherever you are. Probably a Medicine Hat right around now.
Yeah. um, yeah, I mean, I guess we could probably just off the bat get it out of the way, talk about two. I say as if like get it out of the way as if the same way we used to talk about like Leaf losses is discussing them and getting them out of the way because the Leafs are just winning too much right now. That all we're talking about is them winning. Knock on wood. They play San Jose tonight. But
This seems like a perfect game for
afraid.
them to lose.
I'm so
I'm
afraid.
afraid I'm afraid of Macklin Celebrini and Timothy Liljegren.
I'm 21 and afraid of Macklin Celebrini and Timothy Liljegren.
But yeah, the Leafs were in New York at MSG to take on the Rangers. With on Friday with Anthony Stolarz getting the start over Joseph Woll because Joseph Woll was sick. Okay. I'm remembering my own notes. Against Igor Shesterkin. Reeves was in the lineup to take on because Matt Rempe was at the other end of the ice, which I found dumb. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I understand the mindset. The only thing is that every time Matt Rempe was involved in a scrum, Ryan Reeves was not on the ice at that time. So you weren't even like line matching them.
I think, like, in the modern day, enforcers that can't actually play hockey have no use on the ice because that's essentially just sacrificing a lineup spot that you could use to so you could put someone competent like Connor Dewar in to maybe throw fifth. And he doesn't even throw fifth anymore. How many fights does he have this year? One?
He has less than Connor Dewar.
And this is where I come back
Sorry.
to the...
That's my favorite thing to throw out, though, is that Ryan Reeves has less fights than Connor Dewar.
Connor Dewar!
And everyone is... And like, okay, yeah, whatever, Connor do it. Anyways, this is all just to say, remember when Connor Tour fought Scott Lawton this
I have lived 1,000 lives. I
Yeah.
have
that,
edged.
that wasn't even that long ago because that was the last time we had Randy on the show, was that game.
No, we've had Randy on since then, surely.
Not since that Flyers game. That was this year. Anyways. That was like January.
What? No. We've had them on since.
And that is Marcie experiencing the passage of time in real time.
Time isn't real.
But yes, no, I just find Reeves really dumb, and we've had this conversation on the podcast before, the two, like Mara and I, just about the fact that like Ryan Reeves, okay, if you're gonna pay, like, sign him for a 3-year contract, and you're gonna be like, but the vibes he brings, hire someone else. There is nothing in the league stopping you from just hiring a guy who doesn't ever, like, who's not on the roster, whose whole job it is to just be a vibes guy in the locker room. There is nothing stopping you from doing that.
No.
That's why Joe
Five
Thornton
guys-
has a job right now.
Five guys are everywhere in this league. Like, the least you could do is find one with some modicum of on-ice skills.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially it's that thing where it's like, oh, like, gotta bring the physical, like, you know, like, I guess I know, like, Brad and Craig wanted a more physical team, but, like, you're choosing Craig wasn't even here when Reeves got signed, but it's like you're choosing to do that with Ryan Reeves at 1.35. Mind you, that's the same money that you're paying Bobby McMahon.
For 1.35 million, you can get one of these two players.
It's either Ryan Reeves or Bobby McMahon. Simon Benoit is also at 1.35. Just like, I think people have been very critical of his game lately.
But
A
Timo
lot of
Benoit
which is,
seems like a normal $1.35 million player. Like
yeah.
McMahon, we struck gold. Reeves, bad from the jump. Benoit, that's exactly what I think you'd make. Simone Benoit.
Yeah. That's, I think, you know, saying, oh yeah, you also for 1.35 million could also get Bobby McMahon is like the other complete end of the spectrum of
Yeah.
what you could get from a player who you're paying $1.35 million, like, not on an ELC. Because, you know, you could get now 23 goal scorers this season of Matthew Nyes, who's scoring more than Connor McDavid.
Just saying. I
Just
think it's time we start the conversation.
Connor McDavid washed. The biological clock has caught up to him.
His time has run out.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, that's my thoughts. I feel like I always, every time Ryan Reeves is put into the lineup over someone else, I feel like I have to bring up the fact that I don't like when that's done on the basis of like matching physical players against each other. Because like also as well as like if you're giving Matt Rempe an opponent on the other end of the ice who like is his size or like will fight him, like that's not solving the Matt Rempe problem. That's in fact maybe making it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
there's
think a little
no
counter for how many times I have asked if we can fire either Ryan Reeves or Max Domi into the sun, because it has been a lot. I'm like a broken record at this point. It's every other episode. I'm like, can we fire them into the sun, please?
Please. Please.
and then
I'm begging.
like, and this is why I wanted to get Cody on the show, because I know Cody has comments about Max Domi, and I was like, oh, perfect. We'll get Cody on. We'll talk about Max Domi. He hasn't scored in a bajillion games, and then guess what he does against the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Sure. But you can also say that that's
On his-
mostly Bobby McMahon's goal. Max Domi was
That's
just
what
there to pack
I
it in.
said. I said that. Literally last night, Mark and I were on FaceTime, and I think I said that to you.
Oh my god.
Did I not?
Yeah.
I feel like
don't
I've
know.
become
or was it
redundant
that?
on the podcast.
I think you said it to me, but I was also like very much half
It was either
asleep.
that or I said it to my parents, who I was on the phone with immediately before I called you. But welcome to the show, Cody.
Typical.
Yay.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no Chris Tanev in the lineup. He is hurt, which sucks. But Philippe Myers is in. Um, I still don't have an opinion on Philippe Myers. People apparently like really do not like him because he shoots on net and oftentimes misses, but like it's in the general direction of the net, which is more than I can say about some players.
Honestly,
So
my opinion on both Simone Benoit and Philippe Myers is kind of the same opinion. That opinion being that we should have kept Timothy Liljegren.
does Connor Timmins also fall into this group of defensemen?
Assuredly, very much so, 100%.
Without a doubt.
Without
I
a
can't
doubt.
wait for
I mean,
tonight's.
I
I was
can't
gonna say
wait.
I can't wait for tonight's game to just be reminded of the fact that we should have kept Timothy Liljegren.
Done.
As he's like on the power, like he's on some of that is the fact that he plays on the San Jose Sharks, but he's on their power play unit and did score against the Ottawa Senators on Saturday night. So
Good for
It's
him.
so
Good for him.
over. It's so
Yeah,
over.
we're about to get our butt kicked by Baby Celebrini and the gang of losers in the Sharks. But no, I'm fond of Timothy Liljegren as a player and as just a vibe, and I hope that he finds success wherever he goes, unless he's playing
as
against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
as a former chosen best friend of William Nylander.
Exactly. We already lost Rasmus Sandin, and then he got really good. We can't keep doing this.
No, we can't. And some of that is like, okay, you maybe just don't have like room in the lineup to keep all your players, but also like Connor Timmins is right there.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Timmins,
Like,
who I always forget was projected to be like like before Devon Taves, it was Connor Timmins and Cale Makar as like the future of the Avs blue line. And then Connor Timmins got the worst, like a concussion so bad that he did not play the next season at all.
yeah, which I cannot imagine how bad that must have been for him. Um, and I mean, I understand in theory why Benoit, Myers, and Timmins were all kept over Liljegren. I mean, they were cheaper in
Because
the
they're
cap,
all over 6 feet.
and they're taller, and they're in some ways they're flashier. I mean, Myers has the shot, Timmins also has the shot. Ben was super physical, and Liljegren, he doesn't really do anything that like stands out. He's just kind of okay at everything. But sometimes you need a guy who's
Yeah.
just kind of okay at everything, you know?
Yeah, that's like why we had Alex Kerfoot in the lineup for so long.
Oh, I miss him too. Leave legend Alex Kerfoot. Best to
Harvard
ever do
I
it.
miss him so
alumni.
much.
Harvard alumni. I think, well, that's the thing too. It's like everyone talks shit being like, I can't believe like we got rid of Jared McCann and kept Alex Kerfoot and Justin Hall. But
They did it for me. For me.
Mara likes Justin Hall for some reason. I still don't understand that one.
There is a use for Justin Hall.
He is
There
getting
is, and this is
paid too much money on the Detroit Red Wings right now, though.
okay. Well, that's not my fault. It's Steve Yzerman. But
That's his issue.
back before we had Chris Tanev, Justin Hall was our right-sided shot blocker. Is
Yeah.
Chris Tanev better than him? Yeah,
Yes.
but like Hall had a use. He fit into that niche. And also now that's a vibes guy. That's an ultimate vibes guy.
That's an ultimate vibes guy who serves a purpose because Ryan Reeves doesn't block shots.
Ryan Reeves doesn't block shots.
Justin Hall did also like best friend with Mitch Marner, big vibes guy.
Big vibes guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big vibes guy. But now a dad. Weird. But yeah, I don't even know where I was. Oh yes, Alex Kerfoot. I was gonna say it was like, but Alex Kerfoot though was like weirdly clutch in like situations where you didn't expect him to be. And one of those I think about his shootout winner against Ottawa,
Hmm.
in which
Sorry.
I sat on my couch for an hour afterwards. To the point that like the National started playing, and I was still sat on my couch, of just feeling the effects of an Alex Kerfoot shootout.
To me, my Alex Kerfoot clutch memory is the game sealer in that 4-1 comeback against Tampa in the one
Oh, in
playoff
the
series that we've
playoffs.
ever won.
Yeah,
Because
the
that was
OT
that
winner.
game was also coincidental to an organic chemistry exam that I had, which I was very sure I failed. And then I left the exam to find out that the Leafs were down 4-1. So I went home in my misery and then watched them come back and win, and then found out I got a B in the class. And it was the best successive wash of emotions I've ever felt. So I would like to thank Alex Kerfoot from the bottom of my heart for that. Legend forever.
Shout out to Alex Kerfoot. There's like one screenshot that I have on my phone that's like a series of Sportsnet goal notifications. And it's from when the Leafs lost an OT to the Arizona Coyotes on March 10th of 2022. In which Alex Kerfoot scored against the team he would eventually play for. Also, Pierre Engvall goal on that game as well. That was all I don't know why I have this notification. I think I was out and I was like, wow, look at a hockey game happened, and it was the Leafs losing an OT to the Arizona Coyotes.
Checks out.
I was going through my camera roll the other day and I saw that I still had that screenshot there.
Oh, I need to go through my camera roll, but I'm kind of scared about what I'll discover.
Yeah, but I'm realizing we still actually haven't talked about this Rangers game, and just the way that like Oliver Ekman-Larsson can score on the power play, and like, yeah, I think we knew that though. And he does.
It's always
he
nice
does
to
score.
be reminded.
It is always nice to be reminded.
When we're like, oh yeah, this is why we signed him. It's because he can score on the power play. But also as well, that second power play unit is like effective, and I appreciate that. Sometimes it feels like it's more effective than the first power play unit, but maybe that's just me going, the second power play unit scored, and in less more of like an expectation of the first power play unit like scoring. But yeah, but that was somewhat short-lived of a lead though, because Mika Zibanejad, who I think has been on a heater after everyone like wanted him sent to Mars, it seemed like. And then he went to Four Nations, and now he's good now. I too also would be fixed by spending like 2 weeks with William Nylander. So
who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. But he gets the tip to sneak one past Stolarz. Speaking of William Nylander, he gets one off the rush, but like not. He then like tucks it around Shesterkin, and then Shesterkin like knocks it into his own net, and it was a very un-Shesterkin like mistake. I don't know. I just watched that and I was like, that's a weird goal for Igor Shesterkin. I don't know. He's good to give up. But then this is now in the third period. I'm realizing now like my notes on this are not detailed, so I'm zooming past a lot of them. But Will Cooley ties it up on a shorthanded off of bad giveaway from Nick Robertson, which was a rare defensive mistake from Nick Robertson, because like usually, like, not rare as in like, no, okay, Nick Robertson isn't fantastic defensively, but usually he is very high effort enough that it makes up for the fact that he will make defensive mistakes.
Unlike someone who is usually on his line.
Yeah. Not to name names or anything, but
not to name names but
his dad does have me blocked on Twitter.
Oh God, I wish that were me. I don't have enough Twitter clout to be blocked by Adomi on Twitter.
I don't even think it's Twitter. I don't even think it's Twitter clout, as if it's the fact that like I think I just like every time I like talk crap about Max Domi, like I use his full name. And I think Ty Domi name searches on Twitter. And it's one of those things where it's like, I wonder what was the tweet to do it. And then I looked up like Max Domi on my tweets, and I think I said one where it was like, he's becoming his dad, which is something no one wants to do. Like, it was like something like that where like I brought up Ty Domi indirectly and then was negative about both of them at the same time. Oops.
I'm still working on it. I'll get blocked one day.
But you got to do it like without directly mentioning him and then asking to be blocked, because people are doing that now, and I'm like, well, yeah, he's gonna block you because you did that.
If I want to get blocked by Max Domi, I'm gonna do it because I'm a bitch.
You got to do it organically. Like, this is something that you have to strive for on your own merits and not just directly asking for it. That's the cop-out move.
I am gonna get blocked because I am such an elite hater. If you think I'm asking someone to block me, people do that all the time. I get blocked by people for, I don't know, the most pointless stuff.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It fills me with joy. I love being blocked by people. It's like, I want to know what the final straw was.
Oh, they should make you do an exit survey when you block someone on Twitter.
Please. Give me the feedback so I can read it and improve on just being even worse.
But yeah, so it's tied up now. I will say though, in credit to Nick Robertson, because despite the fact that he did give up that turnover on the power play to allow the Rangers to get one shorthanded, he did back check incredibly hard, which further goes towards my sentiment that like he can improve in areas because of how high effort he plays.
Like,
right?
shout out to Nick Robertson. Just general shout out to Nick Robertson. Like, he did very much request a trade this year, but he never stopped caring and he never stopped trying to improve himself and develop. And it's honestly really paid off for him. Yeah. No, that's gotta love Nicky. Shout out.
And like, yeah, and then like the reason why he asked for a trade was very much like, oh, well, that makes sense when you look at like how he was being utilized under Sheldon Keefe. And it's like, well, yeah, he wants more opportunities. Well, here's him, because like even though he was very solidly on the third line last season under Sheldon Keefe was still like limiting his ice time, and like he wasn't on special teams and all this, unless like, you know what I mean, like fully healthy, he wasn't on special teams.
Yeah.
In a fully healthy lineup, like maybe he'll be on the power play if like 2 or 3 other guys are hurt first. Whereas like with under Craig, he's getting more of that opportunity. Like he's still on the third line, but he's also on the second power play unit. He's also on the penalty kill. So he's having these opportunities in game situations to develop more and learn from mistakes and all those things. Like it doesn't matter in the end, the Leafs ended up winning. So like, I don't care. I'm just, it's like, no one's going to remember that fact. Everyone's just probably going to remember, like, at least when my takeaway from that goal specifically, or just most of his defensive mistakes, is the fact that, like, if he does make a mistake, he tries his, like, hardest to fix it, which is not the case for not just other players on the Leafs, but also just, like, when we talk about Pittsburgh, like, just other players in the league. Erik Karlsson. Not to name names, but but yeah, like I said, Leafs win the win off of a Matthew Knies goal, where this is where I say, hey, this is what you drive the net, guys. I've been saying this all season, and it's every time the Leafs get a goal by driving the net, I'm like, hey, look, it works. But yeah, also Matthew Knies' brother was in attendance, which we only bring up because, like, we brought him up last week when we were talking about Alex Steeves, so do not anyways, but yeah, it is very satisfying though to play a game against the New York Rangers in which the Leafs were the ones who goalied who like no, where the Rangers were the ones who got goalied. I think that's a much natural way of saying that sentence. Essentially, Anthony Stoller stood on his head because
Yeah.
the shots at the end of this one were 35-16 for New York.
Oh boy.
So
It's just
I'm just gonna
beautiful.
let that one settle over the group for a sec. But yeah, Anthony Stolar's very much stood on his head for that one. In terms of continues to put up great performances this season between the pipes for the Leafs. Fantastic. We love to see it. Does not mean like this is where it's like, I mean, we could sit here and debate all day with still like 22 games left in the season about who will be that game one starter for the Leafs in the playoffs. And it's like, okay, well, like Anthony Stolarz is like the obvious choice, but also like you, and I know people aren't going to like this because people are like, but like, look at what Boston did, but like, you might be able to run the tandem all the way through.
I'm
Mm.
honestly, I'm honestly in favor of running the tandem. Like in part, you gotta ride the hot hand. You gotta see who's healthy and who's not. I think part of the reason Boston failed was because Linus Ullmark was not doing his best. Like physically when that series was happening, so they had to rely a little bit more on Swayman. But like, if you can play them both at their best, then you kind of gotta, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, and because it's also one of those things where it's like, I think the Leafs as well, we've seen the past two playoff runs for them where they've run into injuries with their goaltenders mid-playoff series. And then they've had to go to their backup or they've had to go back from their backup to their starter in the case of when Joseph Woll got hurt at the end of game 6 against Boston. But and you kind of see that like the effect of, you know, maybe if you then have a guy who's also warm in terms of the fact that he hasn't been sitting for 4, 5, 6 games or whatever, or God forbid the Leafs get 14 games deep or whatever it is, win multiple rounds. Who knows? I'm throwing crazy things up there now that Seth Jones is in Florida, okay?
Anything can
Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. Leafs could make the Eastern Conference Finals. Who knows?
Whoa, whoa, whoa there. Whoa
Knock
there.
on
Now we're
wood.
getting a little crazy.
Sorry, they could win a playoff round. They could play more than 7 games uh, in the playoffs. Who knows? But if you get that deep into a playoff run and you have a guy who's been sitting the whole time and, you know, you have to put him in, like the Canucks had to do with Demko getting hurt, um, they, you have, like, here's a guy who also has been playing the whole time and is staying warm or at least staying up to speed because he's been playing games because you can afford to play both of them. Like why not? I don't know. I feel like having a number one guy, like maybe you'll have a guy who you want to start game 1, that's absolutely for sure, but like having a number one guy and having to make a decision of having one guy and sticking with him all the way through the playoffs, which is a very long, like it's always talked about how long and grueling the playoffs are. They're also long and grueling for goalies as well, not just skaters. And goalies get banged up too. So it's like, okay, well, here's the opportunity to like maybe not go with this really old-fashioned way of looking at goaltending and looking at how you're going to decide a goaltender for game 1 by like ignoring just doing what you've done all season that's worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes
Especially
sense.
when a critical flaw for the Leafs has been ignoring what they've done in the regular season that's worked for them and choking themselves out and then losing in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I think that was one of our biggest critiques when Sheldon Keefe was in Toronto, was the fact that like you play this one way all season, all regular season, and then as soon as you get to the playoffs, you become this totally different team that's unrecognizable. That doesn't work because you've never played that way during the season. So you don't necessarily know how to win games that way. Whereas I think hopefully we don't see that with Craig in charge, because it very much looks like the way that Craig has had this team play this season is very reflective on something that's preparation for the playoffs. And like, that's the way that like Boston has always gone about it. Florida's always gone about it. Even Tampa like have done that way where it's like, oh, you watch them in the regular season and it's not that different from the team that plays in the playoffs. And there's some Stanley Cups there in the way that they win. I mean, there's also a little bit of cat finagling, but we can ignore that. That's Brandon Pridham's job, not our job.
Yeah, we don't worry about that.
No, he's in some windowless office in the bowels of MLSE right now, doing some crazy cap gymnastics.
He's got notes and string all over his wall, like Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Pepe Sylvia, if it's the name of our new trade target.
Yeah.
Mikko Rantanen.
Mikko
Rantanen. Oh god.
The thing is I don't. Anyways, my whole thing with Mikko Rantanen, like the whole like, what if the Leafs try to get Mikko Rantanen? Is like, where does he fit in your lineup?
Yeah.
In a place that makes sense, because you could be like, well, what if he's like the third line left winger? No. Why would you put him there? I don't know. It just also feels like he wouldn't like fit with like John Tavares and William Nylander.
Yeah. That's very much like, I'm not familiar enough with Mikko Rantanen as a player. But anyway, let's talk about Pittsburgh. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Leafs game.
Yeah, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Leafs game. Woohoo! Joseph Woll gets to start against Blomqvist. Still no Chris Tanev in the lineup or Steven Lorentz. Steven Lorentz was banged up against the Rangers and did not play. But Dewar was in the lineup. Big win for me personally. Yay! As a big Connor Dewar fan. He was activated off of IR. And the Leafs get this one started fairly early in a happy birthday Max Domi, scoring a goal that was very much orchestrated off of the zone entry from Simon Benoit, and then the actual like taking the puck to the net and putting it on Max Domi's stick by Bobby McMahon. Nick Robertson was also there, and I think actually was the one who got the secondary assist off that goal, but yeah, was not. And like in the way where, and not to be like mean, actually no, I'm gonna be mean about Max Domi.
Yeah, do it. Be mean.
I could have probably scored that one. If you put me there and I put my stick on the ice and I stood where Max Domi stood, I probably could score that one. And that's like not even a gross over. That's not even a gross overestimation of my like hockey skills. That is just genuinely the fact of like, I don't think we should be saying that this means that we need to keep Max Domi past the deadline. This does like it's the thing where this does not shift the needle on him for me because he still only has 4 goals this season.
It's like 4 goals and how many mistakes?
Yeah.
Yeah, like count. Yeah. Well, I did say, I tweeted this out actually. I was like, oh, every time I hear pass picked off, like Max Domi has the pass picked off. I like get me a nickel. I would have enough if I got a nickel, I should say. I'm not saying this correctly. If I got a nickel for every time I've heard Max Domi got the pass picked off, I'd have enough nickels to buy a Max Domi jersey, which I do not want.
And if I had a nickel every time Max Domi scored a goal, I would have like 20 cents. You can't buy shit with that.
You can't.
Not in this economy.
Not. Yeah. It was like I noticed recently when I went to the grocery store that like when you get like the packs of gum that are by the cash and how they used to be like 97 cents, 98 cents. They're now a full $1 even. This
Disgraceful.
inflation is crazy.
This is what Doug Ford is doing to us.
This is Doug Ford and Galen Weston's Ontario. Because it was a no frills that I was in. Which, this is great because we can make all these Ontario references that Marcie doesn't get. Because Marcie, for context, Galen Weston
It's not
owns
great because then I feel left out.
He's the president of Loblaws, which is a huge grocery chain that has multiple subsidies, including no frills, which is like a lie put on by Loblaws in terms of the fact of like, hey, get all your groceries for cheaper, but it's not from Loblaws, except it's still from Loblaws because it's just Loblaws products.
Imagine if Costco was evil. That's what No Frills is.
But like, yeah, but also it's like you're not forced into buying like 30 pounds of like frozen chicken nuggets at once.
I'd like 30 pounds of frozen chicken nuggets.
I feel like that would be a really convenient way to get your protein.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. But yeah, happy birthday, Max Domi. Funny enough, then NHL PR tweeted out being like, oh, the last time a Leaf scored on his birthday was last season. And you know who did it? Tyler Bertuzzi.
Tyler Bertuzzi. What a
A,
crazy
I'm
man.
not
a man,
strong.
a man
Oh.
Cody knows well. Not
Not
on a
necessarily
personal.
in a bad way. Not in a bad way. Or on a personal
No.
level.
Yeah, just in a like. Is he now like kind of permanently on the same line as Bedard? I don't know. I can't keep track of Connor Bedard's line mates because they change every time.
I can't keep track of Connor Bedard's line mates, and I've watched a lot of Blackhawks games this season. It's
Yeah.
become a problem.
Oh, good luck to you.
Thanks, Mara.
I don't even think like Connor Bedard can keep track of Connor Bedard's line mates.
That's the thing. That's the problem.
He just turns up and goes, okay.
Like,
all right.
low key, one of the reasons that he has been struggling a lot this year is like he's had no consistency in the line mate department. Like it's just like two different guys every game. He's had a couple of like players that have like spent a little while with him. You know, Bertuzzi and he were a really good pair for a while. And then they had like one cold game, and the coach was like, "Nope, you're done. You're going." Donato was there for a bit.
50
I
goal
don't know.
scorer Ryan Donato.
Noted 50 goal scorer Ryan Donato.
He actually has not scored 50 goals. I'm realizing now Mar doesn't get the joke because she doesn't actually check the offsides work chat as much as she maybe should to understand the references.
I mean, I don't check Discord a lot in general. So my appearances, few and
You're a
far
stronger
between.
soldier than all of us. The joke being that right at the beginning of the season, Ryan Donato went on a shooting heater, which he's still kind of on, and this is his highest scoring season of his career. But there was a certain point, like I want to say 10 to 15 games into the season, where he was genuinely pacing up to score 50 goals. So for one of my recaps, I wrote about how Ryan Donato is going to score 50 goals this season, and we've brought that up every single time he scores a goal, even though he super isn't going to do that.
Oh god.
Yeah.
What fun.
And if you ask any Ottawa Senators fan, it's future Ottawa Senator Ryan Donato. Because they're all convinced that Steve Staios is going to trade for him at the deadline. I will believe it when I see it because I want to say with what picks and prospects. Because they have none, and any player where I'm like, well, they could get rid of Travis Hamonic. I'm like, Travis Hamonic does not want to go to Chicago. He has a full no move. You're stuck with Travis Hamonic. I apologize. But yeah,
I will take a lightly used Thomas Chabot. Actually, no, I won't. That's just raring to be Seth Jones type part 2. I'll take a lightly used Tim Stützle. I'll take a very heavily used Claude Giroux.
I think Claude Giroux Does Closure have? I don't know if Closure has a no move clause on his contract, but I will say, it's fine. You will get your Lucas Reichel, Tim Stützle teammates next winter at the Olympics for Team Germany.
That's really all I want in this world. Okay, who's scoring next in the Pens Leafs game?
Connor Timmins.
Of all people.
I think it was at this point where I said, okay, I think I said, oh, fuck it. Connor Dewar go next. Because why not? But yeah, Connor Timmins, who actually took a shot on net instead of making the pass, and because he had the chance and the passing lane to pass to John Tavares, and he decided to not do that and instead to take the shot and scores for the first time in like 30 some games. I think it's like 34. In his first second goal of the season. It's been not as long as it took him to score his first goal of the season. So
yeah, he's got that going for him at least.
Yeah, but Connor Timmins, who was originally sold to us as an offensive defenseman, who's now on the penalty kill, scores to make it 2-0 Leafs. That is very short-lived, as this was very much a chaos game, in where Cody Glass puts the Penguins on the board, and Joseph Wool gets screened by Morgan Riley, his own defenseman, on that one. And then Ricard Raquel, who, fun fact, was like, not because I don't want to say supposed to be a Leaf when it comes to like draft picks, because you never know if that team's actually going to draft someone, but the pick that was chosen to select Ricard Raquel was originally a Toronto Maple Leafs pick. Fun fact.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. But yeah, Ricard Raquel ties it up, makes it 2-2. And at that point, I go, why does anything matter? But it also makes me feel very self-satisfied in the way where, like, okay, so the Max Domi goal doesn't mean anything.
It's the little victories at that point.
That's where I rationalize. That's how I rationalize a lot of things in life. But yes, and then to finish off the first period, because we're all still in the first period at this point, Sidney Crosby on the power play for the Penguins scores to make it 3-2. Man,
I've never heard of that guy. Is he good or something?
I wonder. I don't know. I think he's like, maybe, I don't know, won a couple of things.
He's no Justin Hall.
He's certainly no Justin Hall, and he's no Corey Perry either.
No, yeah. He doesn't, because Sidney Crosby doesn't have a member. He can never be Corey Perry.
Oh, God.
The most winning man to ever win is Corey Perry. Which I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast. Did we? I think we may have done it when we had Casey and Kay on, because that seems like a very Casey and I topic to talk about Corey Perry as the most winningest player ever.
We have spoken about it. I remember us talking about it at some point.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm just trying to fill up the Penguins PR, because I think this goal as well breaks like a record for Crosby, I think.
Yes, I think.
I believe he moved into, I want to say 10th place for most assists of all time.
But there was one with the goal. So yes, so we did for assists. But then also there was one where the goal put him above something. It's like one of those really stupid things where like 7 different records were broken in the same game, and it was a 1
It
p.m.
was
Sunday game
crazy.
in Pittsburgh.
Crazy stuff.
But Rickard Rakell, though, on one of his 2 goals of this game, became the 8th fastest Swedish player to hit 500 career points, and he did it in 783 games. Fun fact. But yeah, Joseph Wool, though, in this game, though, looked unlike himself. And just in, like, he was, like, slow. Most notably, I think you could see it the most on his, like, cross crease movement, which he's usually, like, if you pay attention and actually watch him in net, which I feel like analysts don't do based on the way they were talking about him in this one. But he is usually very good with his, like, cross crease movement, and in terms of he's usually very, like, that's fast and clean, and his timing is usually very good. But he just didn't look like himself. It could be that he could still be sick, which I think, honestly, that's probably it.
Yeah.
Because even though himself, he said it was a 24-hour bug, and he will be good. He was good to go and start against Pittsburgh. People lie.
Yeah, it's never just 24 hours. I'm sorry.
And you could say, oh, I feel fine, but, like, there's an impact to, like, just being sick because you sleep worse and everything. Like, I don't know, being sick sucks. So
yeah.
And I don't know about you guys. I've never had, like, a true 24-hour, like, bug.
No. It's always at least 72 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I also do have the immune system of, like, a newborn baby, so.
You are sick again.
Yeah. Once again. Whoa, shocker.
But yeah.
I need to, like, do a tally of how many times I get ill in 1 year.
That would be interesting to look at. And maybe I'd recommend you have more vitamin C.
Do you know how much orange juice I get through?
Not to sound like my mother, but have you considered? Okay.
I do. I have so much vitamin C. I have that. I drink orange juice.
Sorry, not to sound like my mom.
It's so bad.
But yeah, anyways, all that's to say is, like, he could still be sick. I think this was a one-off from him. If this is the worst that Joseph Wool plays this season, they still won.
Yeah, it was still a win at the end of the day.
Not to be that guy, but it doesn't, like, if this is the worst he's going to be all season, like, that doesn't make me mad, and that also for me doesn't necessarily, like, change my opinions on, like, as a guarantee of giving Anthony Stolarz the net in the playoffs. Like,
no.
I'm like, why are we making our decision now? It's a one-off game in which, like, also as well, the team in front of him didn't look great either. Like, okay, there was a couple where they were bailing him out, but it also, like, wasn't his, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yeah. Like, if we're gonna base all our judgments off a random matinee in, like, late February, then I don't know what we're doing here. Sorry, March 2nd.
We're already in March.
A fake date that they made up to sell Leafs Penguins tickets.
Yeah, like, I don't know. And it's one of those things, too, where it's, like, I think so, like, people are tweeting out being like, oh, this is, like, Stolarz is, like, strengthening his grip on the, like, game 1, like, starter job, like, from the bench. And I'm like, I don't think so, especially because, like, we knew Joseph Wool was sick and that's why he couldn't play the game before against New York. So, like, obviously he's probably still feeling the effects of that, considering it's like 2 days later and they've had travel, which, like, I don't know if you've ever been on I don't know if anyone's ever been on a plane while sick. It sucks. Like, the pressure is brutal and everything. Like, even just, like, I was on the train while sick and I had to get up, like, every 20 minutes. to blow my nose in the bathroom. Like, hell is being stuck on, Cody can relate to this. Hell is being stuck on a Via Rail between like that Ottawa to Toronto corridor on a Via Rail on the going home for reading week, so the train is full. And you get delayed by an hour and a half, so your train ride is 6 hours long.
Happened more than once, brother. More than once. The worst when you're out being like in that sort of like Belleville,
the dead zone,
Coburg,
the
Port
Belleville
Hope.
the like the Belleville, like just before Belleville, there's that cellular dead zone.
Yeah. It's the worst. It's the worst.
I was stuck there. I think I was actually, because there's the Belleville, like just before Belleville, or like between Kingston and Belleville, I should say, that cellular like dead zone, and then there's also the one around Brockville, and I was stuck in the Brockville one, noon on July 1st of this past trade deadline, not trade, like free agency. I was getting Elliot Friedman notifications, but the tweets wouldn't load.
I'm not sure if
It
that's
was a
better or
rough
worse
day for you.
than when fuck-ass Elon Musk decided to limit tweets
We do not speak
on free agency day.
We do not speak of that day, because that was when Justin Hall and Alex Kerf went left the league, and like Michael Bunting and like Justin Hall left the league, and I was the only one, like I was watching like free agency, like the coverage on TSN, because that was the only thing that was active, like that was genuinely working. And so I was having to like text Marcie going, Michael Bunting gone.
Don't, because do you know how I found out?
We've told this story 7 times. You were at your grandmother's, sitting on the couch, and
I'm gonna tell it again.
Every time we bring up Justin Hall, this story comes up.
Yeah, well, you know, it's because you don't let me talk about him very often. So
we're a Leafs podcast, not a Red Wings podcast.
Yeah, and we also
we're a Justin Hall podcast.
Thank you, Cody, my new co-host.
Wow.
I'm sorry, who's the one that introduced Randy as your co-host?
It was a mistake. I apologize.
And whatever. I'm not letting that go. But I was sat on my grandma's sofa and someone tagged me in a screenshot and just said, I'm so sorry. The picture wouldn't load. But deep down I knew. I knew that he was gone. And I cried on my grandma's sofa, and she came into the room and just went, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm not crying over a grown man, I promise. And I think she still judges me for that. That is a day that will forever haunt me. And I never, ever want anything like that to happen again. Because I don't think I'll make it through.
As we can hear you pouring tea into your mug.
I didn't think it'd be that loud.
Anyways, Austin Matthews ties it up with a wicked fast shot 5-hole on Blomqvist that I think, like, blink and you miss it type thing. Like, especially because it bounced out of the net right away. That it like barely looked like it went in if you like weren't paying attention. But yeah, his first on a goalie since before 4 Nations.
Jeez.
Oh boy. And they say he's not hurt. And they say he's healthy and fine.
I don't know. I think this one puts him back on pace for 40 goals or something. Like, I can't remember. This puts him back on pace for something, but this one does firmly and gives him sole possession of second in all-time Leaf goals, passing Daryl Sittler. I think he's now like 30 or something away from passing Matt Sundin, which if he was perfectly happy, he would have done this season, like if he was scoring at the same rate as last year, but he's not. So next year.
There's always
Next
next
year.
year.
There's always next year. Fingers crossed.
Yep. Then Brian Russ puts the Pens ahead 4-3. And then John Tavares scores on a breakaway here. Which, man, John Tavares, sometimes he, like, not even in a way where I'm, like, frustrated with John Tavares ever, or very rarely am I frustrated with John Tavares, but, like, I think now more so as he's gotten older, not that he's that old right now, because he's, like, 31, or what, like, he's he's older than 31, but he's not
I think he's like
that
33 or
old.
34.
He's not that old. Like, I think he maybe, okay, he's old. Anyways, all this to say, he's not like, it's not like you're like gonna ship him off to the farm upstate anytime soon. Even though you would think by the way that people talk about him, but like sometimes he'll do something and I'm like, oh man, John Tavares. And like the same sort of like joy that I had like in his first season in Toronto, where it's like, I can't believe this guy plays for us now, kind of way.
Yeah. Like,
Now, like,
after all of those years of basically Phil Kessel and no one else, it's incredible that the worst player on our core has better numbers than Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
And it's old ass John Tavares.
It's old ass. It's John Tavares after 3 kids.
Yeah.
3 kids he did not have when he came to the Leafs.
3 kids and a magical amulet later, and he's still kicking ass.
And he's still got it, guys. He's still got it. But I also want to highlight the pass by Jake McCabe on this goal, because he's the one who springs John Tavares for the breakaway, and it's such a heads-up pass by McCabe in the way that he is so good at doing. Like, not so good at it, but like he's done it more this season than we've maybe seen him do it in previous seasons. Maybe some of that is just like he's gotten better at it, or also as well, like maybe he's gotten more comfortable with being for the Leafs now that he's, signed long term, or there could be a myriad of reasons. But he did have the heads up to do that. There was also like a really bad change done by Erik Karlsson in which he took his sweet ass time getting back to the bench.
Classic Erik Karlsson.
This was something today I was talking to I can't, you know what? No, I was talking to my radio co-host, Tyler. I'll fully name him on the podcast. And he said to me, because we were talking about Vancouver, and I said, oh, he's like, I can't believe Vancouver only ever made the playoffs like once or twice, with like in the early days of like Hughes, Pettersson, like when Bo Horvat was there and stuff. And I was like, dude, because like outside of the core, they were bad, and their coaching was bad, and their GM was bad. Like you're talking about the era of like Canucks hockey where they were drafting like Jake Virtanen. Like
Ollie Jokinen, or
yeah. Like no, because it was like, yeah, like exactly, that's exactly it. Like it was that generation of players that were now, becoming like actual like proper NHL players now at this point, except for Bo Horvat, who's there forever. But so then there's no wonder, like if you look at, there was no support there, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at, to like that core of players and their goaltending. Like this was like Thatcher Demko was there, but like not quite in the way of it being like, oh, it's Thatcher Demko. And also like, yeah, anyway, it just was a mess. Like I said to him, I was like, Matthew Highmore was on their third line with Tyler Mott. Like there's no if you actually paid attention to the Vancouver Canucks, there's no surprise that they weren't in the playoffs. And he was like, well, like Quinn Hughes is just a modern Erik Karlsson. And I was like, no, because he's better than Erik Karlsson. And he's like, even prime Erik Karlsson? I was like, yes, because Quinn Hughes can actually play defense. Something Erik Karlsson has never been able to do.
Look, I love Eric Carlson. Eric Carlson is actually low-key one of a player that I really like and kind of have for a while. But that man does not play defense. That man does not know what defense is.
Yeah.
He's a
And he was like,
he's a defenseman, but like that's not the point of Eric Carlson.
he's a, I always called him a forward who could skate backwards.
Yeah.
And that's why he was a defenseman. But like it was even that thing too where I was like, dude, like you watched because I was like saying to Dad, I was like, dude, you're a Sens fan. You watched prime Eric Carlson. You know he can't play defense. He's like, yeah, but like he had like Mark Mathot. And I was like, yeah, Mark Mathot was the only guy playing defense. Like that's why he was there. Mark Mathot is not also an extension of Eric Carlson. If you want to like anyways, all this to say is like Quinn Hughes is very good and actually like and I think is better than Eric Carlson. Anyways, all this to say Eric Carlson makes 2 mistakes in less than a minute on the ice and it cost the Penguins 2 goals.
Yeah.
The second one comes off of a for the Penguins an offensive zone face-off with 5 seconds left in the period in which you win the face-off. Eric Carlson misses the pass. Matthew Knies steals the puck, skates up the ice, and scores with 0.1 seconds left in the period, which is about as close to a buzzer beater as you can get in hockey because you can't score a goal like after time's run out in the same way like in basketball. Like if the ball's in the air, it will still count. But yeah, so 0.1 seconds left. I don't remember ever. And he knew right away that it was good. Like he knew right away. You could tell by his reaction. You could tell by the bench's reaction that they knew that one was going to count. But I will say I've never seen a goal that close to the buzzer. I don't like unless someone's like, well, here's one from like 5 years ago, and it was like on like Nashville. I'm not gonna know. Like in terms of like a Leafs goal, I think that's the closest one I've ever seen.
It was such a good goal too. My God.
Yeah.
Matthew
It was
Knies,
so good.
love him.
Yeah. And that is his 23rd of the season. That's the one that puts him above Connor McDavid on the season in goals. It's also one of those ones too where it's like like every so often you see these like big blockbuster trades that involve the Leafs of people going like, what if we got Mikko Rantanen? And they will throw Matthew Knies' like hat into that conversation, or they'll throw his name out there as part of like that package for that return. And it's like, no, that's too much. Matthew Knies is like he's so good and such an underrated pick not underrated pick, but like in terms of the fact he was drafted in the 2nd round, which I think is also just like hats off to the Leafs scouting department on that one. They some real ones. They
yeah.
Just in terms of the fact of like that's kind of how you have to like that's how you build a contender is by hitting on like those draft picks outside of the 1st round or even later in the 1st round where you're not going to you have to trade that picks or you're just going to select lower because your team is doing better or whatever, but you're still going to get something of huge value out of it. And Matthew Knies has kind of become that like centerpiece for the future for this team in terms of like is like that leader in that young core of players of like him, like Nick Robertson, who I'm about to name about 4 guys who may not be with the organization after the end of this week, but who knows? But yeah, Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton, even like some of the other young guys, like I don't know what like Noah Chadwick is going to turn into, but we gave him an ELC. Ben Danford, like Joseph Woll as well, even though he's not considerably young, but like for a goalie, he is still somewhat at 26. But just this like it's this thing where it's like this is going to elongate the competitiveness and the competitive window for this current core. Maybe not John Tavares because he's older, but like of like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander, and like these guys are going to be able to stay on a competitive team for longer because you're going to have a new younger core of players to help support them that's going to be able to keep this team competitive because they're going to be able to play a bigger role in the lineup. And this is why I say we cannot trade Easton Cowan or Fraser Minton.
No,
No, like,
it'd
I
be
mean,
so stupid.
maybe one of them, but not both.
Yeah. And yeah, maybe one of them, not both. And then you have to like kind of do an evaluation of which one you think is going to pan out in the most way, like in the biggest way.
Hmm.
Because like just in the way that I talk about, because like we kind of know what Fraser Minton is going to be, and I'm not even saying this in a bad way. We just know what he's going to be because we've seen him in pro games, we've seen him in NHL games. We can maybe, you know, his ceiling is a little bit unknown, but we know at least we're going to be able to get a reliable third line center and a strong, reliable third line center. We know that's not necessarily like his ceiling could be higher than that, but we know that's what he is, and that's not a bad thing. In fact,
No,
the Leafs are in need of that right now.
Yeah.
there's
And
too many
that's
fourth
something
line centers of this world. Where are the quality third line centers when you really need them?
exactly. And it's one of those things, and that's why I'm like so anti against trading Fraser Minton for a guy like Scott Laughton, because you're essentially going to have to like replace
'Cause-
Scott Laughton in about 3-4 years when he's too old. And
Yeah, Scott
well,
Laughton is just a version of Fraser Minton that's a lot older. Like,
yeah,
never trade older if you could possibly avoid it.
exactly. Whereas like I think the bigger question mark in all of this, or out of those two, is Easton Cowan, because we don't know what he's like outside of the OHL, except for World Juniors, but even then, we don't talk about those.
We don't talk about those. Dave Cameron, meet me on the dueling ground. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, because like there's so often we see those players that tear up juniors and then just don't put it together in the NHL because the games are fairly different. And so often we meet those guys who are kind of middling in juniors and then tear it up in the NHL, and then sometimes they'll be good in both. And it's hard to find out where the connection lies sometimes. And Easton Cowan is a very confusing player in that the connection could be there and it could not be, because he's kind of tearing up the CHL. He's one of the London Knights leading scorers. He won all of those individual awards last year during his crazy D+1. There's also some very obvious juniors flaws to him, like something like Connor Bedard, but at a much smaller scale, because obviously he's not going to be the sort of player that Connor Bedard is projected to be. But it's like he's going to need development. He's going to need time to iron out the flaws. And the flaws might overcome him. They might overtake him. They might prove too much for him. But he also might turn out to be crazy good. Is that a gamble that we're
Yeah.
willing to take for like Dylan Cousins?
Yeah, and it's also one of those things too where like I don't know, I'm trying to remember if this is definitely a conversation we've had where I said like Easton Cowan either can be like Mitch Marner or he can be a Max Domi in the ways of like, because Max Domi, like everyone's like, well, look at it, like Max Domi did have really good junior numbers, but I think often our big critique of Max Domi is like a lot of his flaws that he had are very much the fact that he was a one-dimensional player in a role that requires you to not be one-dimensional, in the role that he like wants to fill or he's like built to fill in terms of like his ability to make passes and things like that. And not to steal Cody's own metaphor that we've talked about before, but just in the way of like Max Domi has everything except for the hockey sense. And maybe that's why he worked so well with Tyler Bertuzzi last year, because Tyler Bertuzzi didn't have anything but the hockey sense.
Mm-hmm.
But whereas like Mitch Marner is fully and 100% the complete package in every aspect of his game, because of his ability to just read the ice and make passes and use all assets of his skill set. And he has a good shot that I will say, maybe doesn't use enough, but whatever. He's Mitch Marner. Like, it's fine. You can live with that sort of thing. But Easton Cowan, I just don't know what he is. He's a mystery to me, because like I've seen him play in preseason games for the Leafs this year, and like in person, which I think is very helpful when you can see players on like the full ice. I'm not saying that like in order to truly understand hockey you have to go to a game, but when you are at a game, what makes it superior over watching it on TV is you have the ability to see the entire ice at once, which is very helpful in evaluating a player in the decisions that they make when they don't have the puck on their stick. But so I went and the preseason game, saw Easton Cowan, and like you can tell there's like weaknesses in his game that I think like if he was capable of playing outside of the OHL this year, which he wasn't because of the fact that he's still like he can't play in the AHL because he's not 20 yet, or he can't play he couldn't play in the NCAA because he was ineligible at the time. It is interesting to see like that he is just, there's some aspects of his game. A lot of it is defensive mindset. A lot of it is just being able to cheat on defense in the way that you can in the OHL that you cannot do at a pro level. And some of it was just puck battles and things like that. But hopefully, if you don't trade him and he does turn out to be pretty great because you give him that development with the Marlies, then great, you've got a great prospect. But like, unless you're getting, my whole thing, and I think I've said this before, is like, unless you're getting like a Dylan Cousins-esque, which is a younger player, I'd say on like the younger side of 23, 24, with term, then you start considering, okay, what prospects do we maybe move or whatever. But like if it's for like Braden Shen, no.
I don't want Braden Shen. I'm so scared that we're gonna get Braden Shen and it's just gonna be a disaster.
It's gonna be a disaster because he's gonna age so poorly on that contract.
Yeah,
with
like that contract is already too much.
Yeah, it's already too much right now, and he's already old. Like he's only going to get older, and I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't see a world in which he is worth like a genuine prospect compared to other players out there. As we near, it's so hard not to talk about trades as much as I know or potential trades or anything like, or like trade boards in general, as we talk about, like we're in the middle of talking about a game, because of this week, like trade deadline's Friday. It's so hard not to get wrapped into that discussion because, but yeah, then early in the third period, like very early on, Rickard Rakell, off of a mistake from Max Domi, ties it up for the Penguins. And of course, at this point, then we would go to overtime. And there's no more scoring in the third period. Like after everything with that game in the first two periods, of course, then there would be no more scoring in the third period, and this game would go to overtime. And in the most casual way possible, and just William Nylander scores in overtime to win it for the Leafs. And like so casual, like even his shot just seemed casual.
That's just so William Nylander of him. Like he obviously cares. We know from the things that he says and the way that he performs that he cares. But he's so chill. He's just like terminally chill. That is beautiful.
That
It's
just a chill guy meme, but it's William Nylander.
it's just a chill guy meme, but it's William Nylander winning in overtime. Um, and I think honestly that chill is like it's one of his best aspects. He doesn't freak out. He doesn't back down. He doesn't take stupid penalties. Um, like a certain other player. Um, he's not prone to, defensive flubs. Like occasionally he'll chill too close to the sun, and like forget an assignment. But a lot of that time when the ante ups, he's the one still calm enough in the head to take it over.
100%.
Yeah, like I don't know. And also, it's like that level-headedness of him is what keeps his play. I think it keeps his play so consistent into like the playoffs and stuff, where it's like there's never a situation too big for William Nylander in terms of just all situations are just situations for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, and I will say, like, he's a chill guy. As someone who's met him, I can say this now. He's a chill guy. He also seems like just an awesome dude to be friends with, and he seems really nice. And so like it's not like he's this like chill, like too like suave guy all the time where like he doesn't care. He cares. He just doesn't let the emotions affect him on the ice. And it's like nice. I don't know.
Yeah. Go
Um
William.
Go William. And that's his 35th goal of the season. And I did some math and I'm very proud of myself that I think I calculated this correctly. And the fact that that puts him on a 47.8. So we're going to round up to 48 goal pace on the season. I say that only because it was the 60th goal of the season and he hit 35 goals. So I did a fun little math. I feel like my math is wrong now that I'm looking at the numbers, but who knows? But yeah, which would be a career high for him and is like 2 away from 50, so it might as well happen.
Yeah, no, that is a 47.8 goal pace.
I'm so proud of myself. I did the math correctly. Yeah.
All right.
But
Is it
yeah,
Seth Jones time?
well, okay. Yes.
Hold on. Sorry.
But first
I don't want to.
sorry.
Yeah, first.
No, we just have to give a little bit preview to the two games that are coming up before our next episode
Of
on
course,
Thursday.
of course.
Calle Jarnkrok is expected to be reactivated off of LTIR tonight to play against San Jose as they are in town on Amazon Prime, which those are great broadcasts. We're just going to ignore that I think the Steve Dangle like podcast guys are supposed to be on it tonight pregame. When are we going to be on a Prime broadcast?
Yeah, when are we going to be on?
Oh.
Emma
Call
Marcie
us up,
They
Amazon.
can do it.
Jeff Bezos, hey.
Hey, Jeff.
Anthony Stolarz is projected to get the start with, I think it's Georgiev in the other end for San Jose. It is Timothy Liljegren's return to Toronto since being traded earlier this season. That'll be fun. I had someone ask me if they think he's going to get a like a little welcome back graphic. Yes, because
absolutely
guys have gotten one of those for less. So, and I think people also forget that like how long Timothy Liljegren spent within the Leafs organization. Like he's a 2017 draft pick. And
did he win the Calder Cup with us?
Yes, he did. Yeah. That is Calder winner Timothy Liljegren. I'm not going to specify which one, but that is he is a Calder winner.
Oh my god.
I love when I can just say things. I can't wait I'm like waiting to use that one like on Twitter. So podcast listeners heard it first, but I'm waiting to use that one on Twitter. Like if he scores or something, I'm going to go Calder winner Timothy Liljegren. But yes, he did win the Calder in 2018 with the Marlies. So like he has been here for a while. And so like he absolutely is going to get one. He's absolutely going to get like a welcome back graphic. because yeah. Also like one of William Nylander's like special friends. So I don't
And
know, just
William
like
Nylander's very under little Swedish boy.
yeah. They don't have to be Swedish though. Remember Casper Captain, the OG?
That's true. A member of
He's
William Nylander's strange European herd of hockey players.
Casper Captain, the
Oh,
OG
dear.
William Nylander best friend. But then the Leafs head off on another road trip. They're not in town for long. They're off on another road trip on Wednesday, where they are going to be in Vegas to take on the Vegas Golden Knights with a 10 p.m. Eastern start time.
I will be tucked up in bed and fast asleep, I'm afraid.
I will watch the game, and then we will have to do an early podcast the next morning, and where I'm sleep deprived because it's a Wednesday, and we do Thursday morning shows.
Woohoo.
Oh, no, you scared. Yeah. You scared me then.
Did you forget that we do shows on Thursdays? We've only been doing shows on Thursdays for over a year now.
No, it's because you. No, right, no, it's because you said morning, and for me, it's not morning.
No, it's 4 p.m. For me, it's a morning.
Yeah,
Early
that's
morning
why.
for me.
Yeah.
Why would it be? Why would I say, oh, I have to stay up late and watch the Vegas Golden Knights and say then, oh, and then have to be up early the next day and it's your morning and be talking about you?
It's because you said we.
True. I said because we have to anyways, does it matter? Anyways.
Look, I'm in the trenches right now. Let me live.
But yeah, anyways, Vegas, as the Leafs go on, they're like, it's been like, I think multiple like seasons now where I'm trying to figure out what to call the like Utah, Vegas, like Colorado road trip that it seems like a lot of the Eastern Conference teams do. And I've yet to find a name for it because it's
The mountain
always,
trip?
but like,
Yeah, that doesn't really
but
work.
like Vegas
like
doesn't have mountains and it's not
true.
like deserts.
The Outback trip.
The Outback. Yeah.
The Frontier trip, I
The
guess.
Frontier.
That would only fit if Utah became the Outlaws, which they're not going to do, but I can dream.
That is our personal vote for a name as well as the Outlaws. After I've had to explain like copyright and trademark law to people about why they cannot use Yeti, and then I will say, hey, here's these digital ad boards in a game for Yeti. Yeah, I don't think they can use Yeti. But yeah, I've yet to figure it out. What's that family that like ate each other?
The Donner Party.
Yes, the Donner Road Trip. Is that bad?
Hey, if I had to face down Nathan McKinnon and Jack Eichel in back-to-back games, I would start thinking about a little bit of light cannibalism too.
I'd like also
a little
like
bit of cannibalism never hurt anyone.
Yeah, and like Clayton Keller and like I don't know who else is on Mikhail Sergachev. Who else is on Utah? Who's like Logan Cooley.
Leaf legend Alexander Kerfoot.
Alex Kerfoot.
Leafs legend Alex Kerfoot. Harvard alum Alex Kerfoot. Which like his captain was Jimmy VC. Fun fact. I don't know. That's a fun fact about Harvard hockey. But yeah, I guess we can talk about Seth Jones now.
Oh boy. So
yeah, so this is actually the original reason why I wanted to have you on for this specific episode, because on Saturday night, as I was preparing to go out, like I was I get so scared when I see a note. Anyway, sorry. Seth. Oh, Anthony Duclair, healthy scratch for Isles tonight versus New York Rangers. Anyways, thank you.
Oh, no.
That doesn't matter. Anyways, Elliot Friedman decides to do the scariest thing as they have him like locked in a boardroom for the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast. Which I don't know if you saw that picture of him literally in a boardroom.
I did not.
Oh, I giggled.
I was a little too busy elsewhere.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it like after the fact because like Sportsnet posted it on Twitter. But yes, you were while that was happening, and also Cody was sitting in the press box of the Stadium Series in Columbus. Seth Jones, who I honestly, and you know what, I'll admit to being wrong on this one because I very much thought they wouldn't have been able to move his contract without like serious retention, and I didn't think Chicago would have wanted to retain a considerable amount of his contract because they still like it's for like 5 years. But yeah, Seth Jones was traded to the Florida Panthers. I have the return right here, and I'll just read it out, and then Cody can say his opinions on it. And the return heading back to Chicago is goaltender Spencer Knight and a conditional 2026 first-round pick that will only become a 2027 pick if Florida doesn't have their 2026 pick, which I don't. I think it's because that 2026 pick is like, why would they not? Anyways, I don't know why it's conditional in that way, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, Cody, your thoughts.
All right. So actually, the thing that you said about like Seth Jones having a hard contract to trade, that is what all of us have been thinking for all time. Like that is a really difficult contract to move. I want to say it's $9.5 million until
yes,
either 2028 or 2029. And Seth Jones,
2028.
He's not as bad as a lot of people have been saying. He's certainly not a $9.5 million player. It just came in that sort of wave of pre-flat cap contracts that all feel a little bit way too much, but were probably super reasonable at the time. And it's like it's so impressive that not only did we manage to move this contract with pretty minimal retention, it's a little over 25% retained, so that Florida has an exactly $7 million cap hit. But it's also impressive that we got both a first round pick and Spencer Knight for it. So a little breakdown because like a lot of people have been saying, oh, you won this trade, you lost this trade. I would say we won this trade, but we could mega win this trade in the future because Seth Jones being gone is a little bit addition by subtraction, in my opinion. He wasn't a bad player, especially in the context of the Chicago Blackhawks, who are shit from a butt in terms of on ice success. But his lack of speed really did kind of stand out. You know, he's terrible against the rush. He's prone to kind of making awkward mistakes. He's a little bit of like a Timothy Liljegren type, like an all-around guy, who you can trust in the general situation, but you really shouldn't be relying upon to be your number one defenseman. So, of course, this means that we were playing him 25 minutes a night. And losing him means that not only do we have opportunity to call up a lot of our younger players, but the Hawks have a really full defensive prospect pool. We have
Kevin Korchinski.
Kevin Korchinski. Obviously, we have Alex Vlasic, who has kind of graduated from prospect to full-time NHLer, even though he's quite young. We also have Kevin Korchinski, who's still in Rockford. We have Wyatt Kaiser, who's a little bit small, but I think has a lot of potential. Ethan Del Mastro, who I'm really fond of for he's got a lot of bite, a little bit of offensive awareness. Nolan Allen, who's very tall. Louis Crevier, who is also very tall. And Artem Levshunov, who was the second overall pick this year after Zachary Celebrini, and who will definitely need a little bit more time to cook, but I think is really coming together, who is also in Rockford. So I think Seth Jones's main flaw on ice was not any of his actual on ice weaknesses, but more so that he was clogging up the pipeline. Those 25 minutes a night need to be filled, and they need to be filled with younger players who are free to make mistakes. and not 30-year-old Seth Jones who doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, and like
yeah. Go
and like
ahead.
that was also like I was just gonna say, like, it was like that. It feels like in the end of the way, like this works out the best for Chicago out of both sides. Like, okay, maybe Seth Jones gets fixed by Florida, maybe, and it ends up paying out in the long run, whatever. But then you're still like stuck with him for like the next 4 years after this one. And yeah, okay, the cap's going up, but also you have like two notable free agents this year that you have to pay in um in Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett, in which those guys are I mean, I don't know if Aaron Ekblad is going to get a raise. He's not that old. Okay? People are under the impression that Aaron Ekblad is really old. He's not. He's only he's a 2014 first overall. So that only puts him at what? 28?
Yeah, that would make
If
it 28.
Yeah, if my math, he's the
Yeah.
same age as Leon Draisaitl, to put that into and like no one's ready to ship Leon Draisaitl to the farm upstate.
He's crusty and decrepit, and what are you talking about?
But like, and Sam Bennett is the same age because they're all the same draft class. Like, it's what is the other? Who is? Because it was like the top. Oh, and then it's like Matthew Tkachuk. Because I think I said like I just
Tkachuk is
mentioned
a
like the top
2016 pick. I think it's
2016.
Reinhart.
No, because there
Maybe
was 2014, there was 4 guys who were drafted, and 3 of them are now on the Florida Panthers. Because I was looking this up not that long ago. It's Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's Sam Reinhart. Okay, yeah. 3 of those, like in the top 4, 3 of those guys are like on the Florida Panthers still, and then the other one is like
is Leon.
Leon Draisaitl. It's Leon.
So that Stanley Cup final was a real haven for specifically the top 4 players of the 2014 NHL draft class.
Yeah, if you're like really into 2014 draft class, very much trying to
weird
think if
draft
there's
to be
I'm like
about. Most of us are 2015
especially with
Sickos.
2015 was the next year. I'm like trying to figure out if there was like anyone else that like pops up who's on those rosters, and there's like not. Man, this gets weeded out really quickly in terms of like high-end players in this draft.
Like you got Nylander, you got Larkin, you got Pasternak of all people, and then it kind of falls off. It kind of falls off from there.
Oh, there's like a couple like Dylan Larkin stuff, but like it's not. Yeah, Adrian Kempe is still in the first round. A bunch of goalies.
Montour.
Yeah, Brandon Montour. There's a bunch of goalies. Oh yes, yeah. Do you want? If we were talking about guys in the, I don't know why I'm like, oh yeah, no, he's always been a Seattle Kraken.
I like to block out his Panthers era from my mind because I'm.
He looks so much better in teal.
He does. And Brady Point also got picked in 2014 in a much later round, even though he's not a Panther or a.
He plays in Florida.
Yeah.
But like, who else? I don't know. I'm like looking through this. But there's also a bunch of goalies in this draft, though, too, as I look through this. Like Demko, Nedeljkovic, Sorokin. Yeah, Merzlikins, Sorokin, Shesterkin.
Igor Shesterkin?
4th round, 118th overall, picked behind Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting was selected higher than Igor Shesterkin. Proof that Michael Bunting is the better NHL player. Gustav Forsling, by the way, also as well, 2014 5th round. Selected 126 overall by the Vancouver Canucks.
Wow. Okay,
wow,
back to
this really was like, hey, are you a sicko about the 2014 draft class? Weird one to be a sicko about, but boy, do we have boy, boy, do
Boy,
we
do we have
have
the playoff
the
series for you.
yeah. Maybe it's just the Florida Panthers.
Been some
Um,
2014 picks. What else?
but yeah, but anyways, all this, what I wanted to say though by bringing up like, oh, Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett are both on expiring deals is you are now like, yes, the cap is going up, but also like you're they're into LTIR space as they stand right now with putting Matthew Tkachuk on LTIR. So you're going to have to like lean into like having to, I think now at this point, choose, not say choose, like, because it's not a definite thing, but like, oh, Samskevich also is like an RFA, which I think is probably,
He might fetch a little bit. He might fetch some money. But yeah, they're
yeah.
probably bound to let one of them walk, and because Jones is a defenseman, it's probably going to be Ekblad.
But
And
the only thing I have with that though that I think is dumb is like the space that Aaron Ekblad takes up in that organization and like from a leadership perspective in terms of like well, like whatever, anyone could, not, I can't say anyone could wear the A, but like he's he seems like the guy who's a little bit more central to like the overall like condition of that locker room and that team from a leadership perspective than Sam Bennett is. So I don't know if like culture is something that you want to think about with that or not, if that makes sense.
I mean,
Like keeping him over
no,
like
no.
a guy like Sam Bennett.
I mean, yeah, I absolutely understand that. And I think the Panthers are pretty devoted to having like what they believe is like a strong leadership group. Um, and they might be inclined to let Bennett walk, but like purely based off of a raw perspective, it indicates that they might prefer to keep Bennett, or maybe that Aaron Ekblad is asking for too much money for a contract extension. Or maybe they just want to sort of shore up their defensive core over the next little while, and they're willing to add another expensive middle sixer to make that happen. Um, but I would like to state for the record that I would be very happy if they let Ekblad walk in favor of Seth Jones, because one of those players is better than the other one. And I don't like the Florida Panthers very much.
Yeah, in the way like this is very much a thing where I had like where I was like looking at this and I was like, of course he went to Florida. Like, you know what I mean? Like in that way of like, yeah, of course he went to Florida.
Of course, he went to
Uh,
Florida. He was so he was so insistent on being traded out of here. You know, we talked a lot earlier about Nick Robertson requesting a trade, but still continuing to work to put the work in. Just because he didn't like, you know, the usage that he was getting and he wanted an opportunity to develop more. Jones also requested a trade because he wanted to go to a contender and he was sick of playing in Chicago, even though he was very much getting those number one minutes, that number one usage. Alex Vlasic very briefly was put on the power play ahead of him as the quarterback, and he complained and asked for his spot back. Even though Vlasic is very much a younger developing player, and if he was succeeding in that opportunity, he should have been granted it. And then after Jones requested for his trade, you know, his effort on the ice just wasn't really there defensively. Not that he's the most skilled defensive player on the planet, but he just wasn't continuing to work in the same way that you would appreciate that a player would. Um, so it's a little bit of a vibe thing that I'm kind of glad that he's gone, just because that locker room was already kind of in shambles because they're just so bad, and that really drags on people. That it's like maybe, you know, maybe it's better that he's where he's happy, and that everyone else can deal with sucking in peace.
Yeah. I will say, as we keep talking about Alex Vlasic, though, I did actually have to look up what his relation to Marc-Edouard Vlasic is, and it's cousins.
Yeah, they are. I think Marc-Edouard is
I
a Canadian and Vlasic is American.
Yeah, he's from Montreal. American from
Yeah.
Chicago. Like Illinois, I shouldn't say Chicago. Willamette, Illinois, which is is like 20 kilometers north of Chicago's downtown. So like it's a Chicago suburb.
That's like being from Mississauga. It's like you can say you're from Toronto, it's fine. Unless you're actually from there, in which case I guess the distinction matters. But
Vaughan.
If
we want to talk about
Newmarket.
Vaughan.
Newmarket.
We're just gonna start naming. We're just gonna start naming places in GTA, and Mars gonna get this really blank look across her face.
Who doesn't think Etobicoke is the most interesting place in the world?
It is, as someone who's from there. Speaking of Sam Bennett, I know he mentioned him earlier, but he's not actually from Etobicoke. He's not, because he doesn't say he's from Etobicoke, but he did go to high school at Etobicoke, and I think his parents still live in Etobicoke. But yes, Etobicoke's a great place.
Is it though? Is it
someone who's from there? It is. I don't know. I do, like, Leafs got the practice facility there. That's how you know. Oh, here we go. Also as well, in case you were wondering, hey, how do these guys know that Kelly Yarncroke's gonna play tonight? He was just activated from LTIR.
Yay!
Hell yeah!
Alex Diaz was assigned back to the Toronto Marlies. But yes, so I'm right all the time.
As usual.
As usual. I don't know. Have I ever been wrong about something on the show? I don't think so. Okay, no. I was wrong actually last week when I said Joseph Woll was going to start against the Rangers, but that's because I didn't know he was sick, okay?
How dare you not be able to predict that?
Yeah. If only I was in constant contact with Joseph Woll and could know when he wasn't feeling well.
Let me just ring up Joey and ask him how his fever's going. Hey bud, what's your deal? You throwing up still? Yeah? Oh, that sucks.
Damn, terrible. But yeah, anyway, sorry. I not to derail this, but I was actually curious because sometimes players have the same last name, but they're not related.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like Devon Taves and Evil Taves. No relation. But also as well, the only thing I have to say though is like I think this actually maybe Cody knows this more off the top of my head than I do off the top of my head, I should say, is how much years Peter Mrazek has left on his deal, because I think this kind of like
I checked this out last night. It's this year and next year. So the goalie situation is now becoming a little bit of a logjam because we're running 3 goalies. None of them.
You have 4. I know Soderblom's been set down, but like you have still
no.
François. Is he still up?
So here's the thing. Here's a little bit of information for you. So we have technically, yes, we have 4 goalies who are on the roster. Soderblom has made huge strides from last year. He was terrible last year, and he's been, I believe, our best goalie this year. Mrazek.
The bar was set very low with that, though. I will admit.
The bar was set in hell, but I would say he's actually an above average NHL starter, an above average NHL goaltender at this point. Starter backup is a little bit.
Bar has also been set very low on that one. I've seen what the San Jose Sharks have done to their goalie situation.
That's fair. Mrazek's streaky. He can be really good. He can be really bad. We know this from his time in Toronto.
I was gonna say familiar with that aspect of his play.
Familiar with that. He's also been hurt because he's kind of injury prone, so he's been out with a groin injury.
Also familiar with that aspect of him as a goalie.
Yeah, but I think he's a trooper. I've been really fond of him, just kind of vibes wise, but he's definitely not our goalie of the future. You know, he's older, he's injury prone, he's a little expensive. His contract expires the year after this one, so 2026, the summer of. There's a possibility that we'll try and move him or buy him out before then, but I don't realistically see that happening. Laurent Brossoit has not played a game this season. He got a knee injury either in training camp or right before it, and he has been LTIR the entire time. There have been basically no updates on him since October. He's pretty much just not. He's missing in action. He could be in Germany with Austin Matthews as Dr.
I will say though, the Leafs were. I just remember when like the big discussion around July 1st was like the Leafs potentially signing Brossoit as like their backup. And I'm so glad we went with Anthony Stolarz instead.
I'm so glad we went with Stolarz instead. Oh man, we really lucked out on that one. But this kind of, brings in Knight with like, it's going to be a little bit of a, how are we going to handle this? Because like, all three of these goalies are too good to be in the AHL, especially because we have Comesso, who's also a younger prospect who needs a lot of playing time. But it's weird. You just got to feel it out. Knight's starting tonight, by the way. He's going to be against the.
Yes.
Who are they even up against? I checked my
the
schedules
Knights?
at the beginning. Oh, the Knights? Oh, that's fun.
I think.
No,
Knights or the Kings?
The Kings.
Yeah.
I check my schedules for both teams at the very beginning of every month, but because since I've been absent at the beginning of this month, because I was in Columbus, I have no idea who's seeing who at any time ever, and I won't until probably Thursday when I go home.
Yeah, I think also what should not be lost on this deal though is that the Chicago Blackhawks are retaining $2.5 million on Seth Jones's deal, bringing his cap hit down to 7.5. And Chicago now no longer having any spots to retain salary going into this deadline, so they can't even be used as like with the Mikko Rantanen trade as like as a piece, like, you know what I mean, like as a team to facilitate a trade. They're off that board because they're retaining contract on Mikko Rantanen, obviously now Seth Jones and Jake McCabe still.
Jake McBabe. Yeah.
McBabe.
It's also
still
worth
thank you,
noting
Kyle
that...
Dubas, for that one. Fantastic trade work done by you. Really has paid off for us. Much appreciated.
Kyle Dubas's last act of goodwill, honestly. Like, let's fucking go. But McCabe and Rantanen's contract and therefore their retention slots are also expiring this season when they go to free agency. Or, well, when Rantanen goes to free agency and McCabe's extension kicks in. So we will go back, the Chicago Blackhawks will go back to having 2 open retention slots until 2028 when Seth Jones' contract expires.
Yeah. But yeah, so you are correct on that. It is just only one of those things where it's like for teams that are in a rebuild and like have that cap space and have also like the financial capabilities to retain salary, because like there are some teams that just can't afford to because they just don't have the revenue, which is something to keep in mind as like the cap goes up, to be like, hey, why isn't this team like at the cap? Because they can't afford that. They don't have the money. But like that is always kind of a way for those teams to like a side hustle. Is to like get like prospects or whatever, or like to be like, hey, or get at least, or maybe even like goodwill or like a favor in the future from a team would be like, hey, remember that time I retained Mikko Rantanen's salary and gave you Taylor Hall, Carolina?
Yep.
Have you considered giving me one of your players? Eric Tulsky, have you considered doing this? I think, though, the true hero of the NHL season is Eric Tulsky's ThinkPad. And all the hard work it's put in this season. Maybe that should Eric Tulski's ThinkPad for Heart. I'm gonna start that campaign.
Yeah, who cares about Leon Draisaitl?
Who cares about Leon Draisaitl? Who cares about Connor Hellebuck? I think it should be Eric Tulski's ThinkPad. Sorry, every time my phone like buzzes this week though, I get like really afraid.
Yeah.
But no, it's just Cody sending the Leafs PR tweet into the Offsides Work chat. Oh, actually, you know what? We do have news that's breaking on the podcast. Ollie Mata signs a 3-year extension with the Utah, carrying an AAV of 3.5.
Good for
I have
him.
no
Get that bag,
I have
Ollie.
no I have no opinion on that, as isn't that what his AAV was before?
Maybe. I don't think I've ever thought about Ollie Mata a day in my life.
I think I
Yeah.
thought about it when he went to Utah. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
that makes sense.
okay.
Maybe it was another one of those baffling Iser moves that seem to happen 2
Yeah.
or 3 times a year. Yeah.
Okay, so his AAV right now is $3 million. So he gets an extra $500,000 a year at age 30, and now he's signed until 2028. So he signed in until he's 33.
All
Mikhail
right.
Sergachev's only 26.
Yeah, Mikhail Sergachev has been around forever. His current
And
contract is like right
no,
off
I
his ELC.
thought he was older than 26.
I am
I
once
think he's one of
again
those players who
baffled
broke in
by
really
how
young.
time works.
Yeah. Also, in case you were ever wondering, Shea Weber's contract is like Utah's issue. Am I thinking? Yeah. Why is he on IR and not LTIR? He hasn't.
Maybe he'll come back.
Anyway.
You never know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. At a cap hit of $7.68 million.
Exactly.
That was a 14-year deal. Anyways, sorry. That's like totally unrelated. I just realized now that Shea Weber's contract is Utah's problem. It's like when you find out like how long Dion Phaneuf spent on like LA Kings books after getting traded from Ottawa. It's the little things it's the little things that you think of. Rick DiPietro. But yeah, all I have like is like I don't understand though Florida's decision to trade Spencer Knight, because no offense to Bobrovsky, but like he's old and like not doing that. Like considering the season that he had last year to win the cup and even the year before to take the team to the finals, he's not doing great in comparison. And now your backup in Florida is Chris Drager, Sens legend Chris Drager. And so I just don't get it, because also as well as like I looked at Florida's like prospect pool and I was like, I don't recognize any of these names. Must be, and which usually like I don't know, I usually am like in tune enough with at least like the CHL to like recognize one or two prospects of like, hey, that guy played at the World Juniors like 2 years ago. But even like Florida like doesn't do it for me in terms of their prospects. So I look at it and I'm like, I don't know who you are. Except for Ben Steves. Know who you are. But I don't know. I just look at this and I'm like, none of them like stand out to me in a way enough where it's like notable. So in that way, and it's not even, and it's also, it's like Florida then doesn't have like a ton of picks left either. Like they have none in the first 3 rounds this year, which some of this is, yes, the cost of winning a cup comes with obvious costs to your prospect pool and the amount of picks that you have and all these things, blah, 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 and like players leaving and free agency, like that July 1st afterwards because of like just they can make more money and you no longer can afford them and like I understand it, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, okay, but like everyone's saying you can win it again, right? Like no one's counting you out, and by trading away like your backup who has a 907 save percentage this season and is 23 years old for Seth Jones, which I think says enough.
Yeah.
You're kind of like removing yourself from the conversation in the way of like my opinion on your ability to go for the like repeat has just lessened considerably. And I'm still not going to ever count Florida out because it's Florida and like they always will find a way, and it's really annoying. But and like especially now because they're like still winning games, they're still keep going toe to toe with Toronto for the top of that Atlantic spot right now. But like I don't know, I
feel like
this trade to
it's kind of mortgaging the future for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much a like, oh, win right now kind of move, except like it's not big enough to be a win right now because you also still have Seth Jones for 4 more years after this one.
Yeah.
Like if Seth Jones was a pending UFA, I maybe would feel a little bit differently about it. But because you still then have his contract for 4 more years, and whatever, like I know the cap's going up a considerable amount, and that may not ever impact the team as much. But like it's still like he's also going to get older, and you also at the same time maybe want to like have like some of your younger defensemen on Florida who are like, I'm just reading them off here, I don't know, younger. I always think Forsling is not 28, and they don't really have a lot of younger defensemen. Their youngest defenseman is 28. What? I don't understand the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning from this.
Real.
Yeah.
Who did they even like? Who did they select last year in like the draft? Did they? Linus, is it Linus Eriksson? Was that their pick? Anyway, this is all just proving I'm confused. I don't understand, and I don't see the like 4D like galaxy brain, like 4D chess galaxy brain vision that Bill Zito seems to have with this one. Because he wasn't in the position of Kyle Davidson where he had like not had to, but like because no one's holding the gun to like Kyle Davidson's head on this one, but like it wasn't like Kyle Davidson, like it wasn't like Bill Zito had the player that wanted out. He could have said no. He could have said, no, I don't want to give up my 23-year-old backup goalie who is probably like who has the potential to become a starter at least, or at least, you know what I mean? Like that. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, and the crazy thing is that Jones has some trade retention, and he was only willing to go to one of 2 teams. It was either the Panthers or the Stars, and the Stars didn't bite, which means that the Panthers knew that they had all this leverage. Maybe they didn't know, but the Panthers had all of this leverage, being that this guy wanted out, and he only wanted out to them, and they still gave up a first-round pick and Spencer Knight. What do they know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I like, especially because it seems like in just like the way, like I think even the projected lines for tonight's game for Florida, I think they play tonight, are like his first practice, like those projected lines, he's only in their second pair, which I don't know if that's not necessarily, I don't think like an improvement on anything. I don't know. I've never been that strongly moved by Seth Jones' ability to play hockey.
Yeah. God. Me neither.
As someone who like maybe watches like, and now I watch 4 Chicago games a year, but prior to this season I watched 2. And very recently I watched him screen his own goalie on a goal against. So
Yeah, he does that.
I don't know. This one, like, yeah. I mean, I feel like we've beat the dead horse enough with this Seth Jones trade, in which I think our opinions can sum up to like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's already looking pretty solid for Chicago, and depending on how Spencer Knight shakes out, and depending on if that first round pick ends up becoming anybody, it could turn out really good for Chicago. For
Mm.
Florida,
Yeah, and
who knows?
yeah. And especially because like it's a 20, it has the potential to be a 2026. I'm still trying to figure out where that like 2026 pick like went, because it's on the Puckpedia on like
I think the condition is it's the 2026 pick, but if Bill Zito wants to trade the 2026 pick elsewhere, it'll become a 2027 pick. So it's like it's
no,
the choice of one of these 2
don't
first round picks.
they don't have that. Or maybe they do. Never mind. Maybe it's already never mind. I'm
I miss
totally
cat
misreading.
friendly. UI was so
I
much
miss
better there.
Yeah, sorry. I will say though, they've added like player equipment as something
Oh,
you can look at on Puckpedia,
cool.
including sticks. If you're a stick head, I'm not necessarily a huge stick head. But like it is fun to see like, oh, you are very much like being like, oh, you're very much a Bauer guy. Oh, you're very much like a Sherwood guy. Oh, you wear all CCM, like whatever it may be. That was a fun thing that they've added, like that I noticed last week because I was looking at Seth Jones's Cap Friendly page. Like last Monday.
It all comes back to
Yeah.
Seth.
Yeah. But I will say though, like also as well as the fact that it's a 2026 pick for potentially, or it has the potential to be a 2026 pick. Or 27, like the 2026 draft class is very considerably much deeper than this year's. I think that's fairly noted. So like it could end up like odds are likely, especially because it's a first round pick, and like I don't know how. I have yet to remember how smart Chicago is with drafting, because they have not drafted fairly low in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I don't know how good their scouting department is, but
they've made a couple perennial NHLers out of quite recent lower picks. Sort of members of that group of young defensemen that I talked about, like Allen, Crevier, and Kaiser. But we're not far enough out to be able to gauge if they're actually going to be real NHLers or just guys who are only here because there's no other quality NHL players on this team. So who's to say? Verdict, who's to say?
yeah. Also, in true spirit of the fact that it's the trade deadline, we have 2 other trades to talk about. Just in the way, in true from the fourth line fashion, we are going to talk about Jimmy Vesey.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy Vesey was traded. Like, I don't know if arguably if Jimmy Vesey is the biggest piece of this trade. I just like saying it's the Jimmy Vesey trade because to me, he is the most notable guy in that trade.
Oh yeah.
But Jimmy Vesey was traded from the New York Rangers with Ryan Lindgren and a unsigned prospect playing for Cornell in Hank Kemp to the Colorado Avalanche for Calvin DeHaan, Carp legend, and Juuso Pearson, a second-round pick in the 2025 draft, and a fourth-round pick in the 2025 draft. This gets Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey out of New York. I think more notably, it gets Ryan Lindgren out of New York. Because I did not realize his contract was $4.5 million.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I guess I mean, what are the Rangers doing? What are the Avalanche doing?
I don't know. I think maybe some of that kind of confirms though with the fact that they're willing to take on they're willing to, take on Ryan Lindgren's contract. I'm just double checking to make sure there's no retention. I'm trying to remember. There's been so many trades that like I can never remember if there's retention or not. Oh, there was. Hold on. Yeah. There was $2.25 million in retention by New York on that as well. So I don't get it. I don't understand Chris Drury in the way of like, I don't know if he fully knows what he's doing behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And justice for Jimmy Vesey because like, I don't know. I just like, I don't want to say I feel bad for the guy. The guy's like, he's perfectly fine. He's an NHL player, but like, dude finally ends up back in New York and is now off to Colorado. But like, Colorado, I don't understand because they have this cap space now from trading Rantanen that I'm like, they could be really big buyers at the deadline because they have this space and they're using it very irresponsibly in acquiring guys like Jimmy Vesey and Ryan Lindgren. I think that's what I wanted to say about this one. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially now because it seems pretty confirmed, like, or not pretty confirmed, but it seems very likely that like we won't see Landeskog play again.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say that.
Just in the way that like it just seems like it's not going to happen. So
yeah, they sacrificed him for that cup win.
Yeah.
Kind of brutally, but
yeah. So I feel like also as well as like I don't watch Colorado enough to try and be like where are their obvious holes in their lineup. To be like, yeah, Jimmy Vesey solves your problems. Again, I'm being like mean to Jimmy Vesey in a way that only Sheldon Keefe ever could. But
Ooh.
I don't know. That one I just like that happened and I was like, wow, that is interesting. And I think I saw a lot of Rangers celebrating that they like got rid of Ryan Lindgren, which like, okay, sure. But also like you're not getting a whole lot in return in terms of Juuso Pearson and also Carp legend Calvin DeHaan, who like owns a brewery up in Carp as well. Fun fact. I don't know. Carp is out for those who don't know Ottawa area geography. Like I've come to learn, Carp is just outside of Ottawa. So.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah. That's why I know he owns a brewery up there. In terms of another trade that happened as well, just to discuss it because we can. Gustav Nyquist was traded to Minnesota from the Nashville Predators for I I don't have it. Hold on. Give me a second. For a second round pick in the 2026 draft. In which that's his cap hit for a center. It's not that bad. Sorry, he has a cap hit of like 3.185, which isn't terrible for a guy with 9 goals, 12 assists in 57 games for like bottom 6 center, but it's still not like fantastic. But also, Minnesota needs the help with Kirill Kaprizov out right now.
Really do.
Because you look at like the amount of shots per game before Kirill Kaprizov injury and after Kirill Kaprizov injury, and it's staggering.
Yeah.
Like they're really fighting for that sort of last spot in the Central. Like they're only 2 points ahead of the Avalanche, who have also struggled themselves. So it's like they need all the help they can get. They really do.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you cannot play Brock Faber. Like, it's one of those things where they play Brock Faber 28 minutes a night with 2 broken ribs.
Yeah, and it's like you got to stop this at some point.
Like, someone save Brock Faber. Actually, no, because it could be worse. He could be in the situation that best friend Brant Clark finds himself in terms of the fact that he's getting healthy scratch for games in LA when he's not done anything wrong.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. Oh, also as well, because we haven't really discussed it yet, and because you're here, and because we got you on one of the offsite affiliated podcasts first, you were at the Stadium Series, as we've
I was
talked
at the
about many
stadium
times.
here.
You were at the Stadium Series in Columbus, Ohio, against the Detroit Red Wings and the Blue Jackets. And do you want to talk about it? If you have anything that you want to say that's maybe a little bit more meant for like a verbal discussion than what's going to go in your recap that I know is coming this week. But
Yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting process to get there. So a little behind the scenes for the listeners. I was not, in most sense of the word, supposed to go to the Stadium Series. I was like the first in line. Um, I mean, I was like the third in line. One of our writers had a medical emergency, and then the person who was supposed to go in her stead had a family emergency, and then I volunteered
there was an open call that went out to the writers about who can get to Columbus, Ohio for Saturday. And you were the only one that could because
I was the only one that could
I had
because
3
everyone else has commitments or it's expensive in a long way, or some combination thereof, usually some combination thereof. Um, so I ended up taking a bus from Kingston, Ontario to Toronto, and then staying overnight in Toronto, and then taking another bus from Toronto to Buffalo, and then catching a bus in Buffalo, and then taking that all the way to Columbus. So that's a sort of a multi-day journey. And then staying in Columbus with another friend, and then finally making it to the Stadium Series on Saturday night. Which is crazy. And there was a little bit of a panic right at the beginning, where I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it in because I did not go to the accreditation office first. There was a little bit of a confusion with the sort of the arrows. They should really make signage more clear in this situation for people like me who have never been accredited before. But that's just my bad. And then I sat there in the press box, and didn't say anything the whole game. I was very scared. But it was honestly, it was a really great experience. It was fantastic. Um, You know, it was so cool to be where the people are, you know, kind of in the room where it happens. Not to mention Hamilton in the year of our Lord 2025, but um, yeah, and it was a really incredible game. Um, it started off a little slow, but they really made it worth our while in the end. Uh, and it was a really nice thing. It was really interesting. It was a good game. It was a good experience. Would recommend.
Um, I will only just address the fact that I didn't watch it because I actually do not get the channel that it aired on in Canada. Because it aired on, okay, this is my only complaint because we didn't even really discuss about the Stadium Series like prior to it happening. For those who are wondering, um, Columbus won, if
Mhm.
I'm correct. Yes.
They certainly did.
Um,
5-3.
yeah, they very much did. It didn't look like it was going to be that high scoring early on in the game, and I did laugh. I think it's hilarious that we sent Cody, who notably hates low event hockey, to a low event hockey game in Columbus. Um, but in in Canada, like the game, because it was a Saturday night, it was
Mhm.
Saturday evening. It was started at 6 p.m. But which in Columbus, I believe it was a 5 p.m. start. There's an hour time change, if I remember correct.
There's no time change. It was also 6 p.m.
There's no, it's because it's on the left side of Illinois.
Yeah.
My American geography is sharp.
It's
um,
basically like right under Detroit. Like if you're
yeah,
driving from Columbus, it's kind of it's a almost a direct swing north to Detroit and then over.
yeah. No, I've been to Cleveland. I've not been to Columbus. I have been to Cleveland though. But it's a 6 p.m. game on a Saturday. So obviously it's going to not go on TSN or Sportsnet. It's going to go on FX, which is a channel I do not get on my parents' cable package. So like I was like, well, I guess I'm not watching this game. And that's kind of like my qualms with a lot of the outdoor games. Is just like it's like, well, you want people to watch them, but like you also then put it on in Canada, which I understand the NHL's main marketing platform is not going to ever be Canada. But also like you would think, hey, maybe not do it on a day where like it's Hockey Night in Canada.
Hmm.
Mm. Just
Maybe,
a
maybe.
suggestion because you're always going to lose to Hockey Night in Canada in terms of broadcasting when it comes
Yeah.
to like hockey games. Um, because it's especially in Canada. But like anyways, it was on like in Canada, the only way to watch it was like either on FX, which is not part of a basic cable package. Like that's a specialty channel that you have to like go out of your way to acquire, or TVA Sports Direct, which is the streaming service for TVA Sports, which is a Quebecois sports channel that you can get. I think you can get it if you like manually add it to your like not Quebecois cable package. It is standard in Quebec. Like when I was in Montreal, um, Randy and I watched TVA Sports because were they were the first channel we found that had like recaps of the game that we were just at for Four Nations. So we put on TVA Sports and we both sat there. But yeah, I don't know. That's my like only, but other than that, like it looks like a really cool environment. I thought that um that's a big stadium. College
It was a
football is
great
a weird
stadium.
experience.
College
Yeah,
football is such
college
a weird
football
experience.
is
A lot of the
college football is
time
a
my
yeah.
thoughts were just like, I'm not American enough to know what's going on here. Like I had a great time. Um, like it was really cool. Again, not nearly American enough to understand the college football of it all. What's going on? Who knows? Not me.
Yeah, that was like the big thing where I was like also as well as like when they have it like at like University of Michigan's they've had an outdoor game there as well. Um football stadium. They've had it there. College football is such like a weird experience, or like such a foreign concept, I think, for like most Canadians, because just we've experienced hockey games to that big of a level, but also like there's a limit to how many people you can fit in a hockey arena.
Yeah.
And I think also still there's just also as well like not that rivalry, that heavier rivalry, or that heavy of an importance placed on like college sports or university sports. Like, go U Sports, love U Sports here, go GGs. Um,
Yeah, but it's just not like culturally relevant to the same level that it is in America.
no, no,
Yeah,
exactly. Like,
especially Michigan and Ohio specifically.
yeah, yeah, especially like their rivalry, but yeah, UMich and Ohio State and stuff. And it is really funny. There was no Ohio State alumni in the game, but there was like 8 UMich players across both teams.
Does
Um,
Ohio State have a D1 hockey program?
yes, they do. Ohio State men's hockey. They do. Um, I'm trying to see if they have um
Any
like
notable
on their
alumni?
Wikipedia page. Yeah, notable alumni.
Um,
Oh, here we go. Buckeyes in the NHL.
yeah, Dakota
Let's
Joshua,
see if
Mason Lohrei,
Ryan Kessler.
Ryan Kessler. No, it's not. It's not a nothing list, but it's certainly not nearly as impressive as a list as Michigan, which makes sense. You know, Michigan's a hockey state. Ohio is, they play hockey there, but it's not as much of a place where
Mm.
hockey is endemic as it is in Michigan.
Leafs legend Dave Steckel.
Oh yeah,
Holy shit, Billy Reed. That's a name I recognize. Because he's in Slapshot. That's why I recognize. I was like, why do I recognize the name Bill Reed? It's because he's in Slapshot.
Oh god.
Oh, anyways, sorry. I was like, anyways,
anyways,
Tyson Strawn too, which I don't know why he was never like played anything like considerably in the NHL, but like I don't know. Anyways, not a ton of like notable alumni, but like not there is some, but like the University of Michigan's like program is insane and ridiculous,
Mm.
and has the ability, like, okay, maybe not so much right now, they're kind of in a lull, but like we'll have these eras where they just pump out like a roster of NHL players.
mhm, mhm.
And you're like, why is there so many of them?
They're everywhere.
Yeah. And they kind of like sneak up on you because you just like look up like a guy's like hockey DB page and you're like, oh, you went there. um but yeah, no, and also like, not that we're necessarily 20, like, I don't know about you, Mar, but I wasn't like a huge 21 Pilots fan, but like they were there as well
They certainly were.
performing.
Yeah.
I hate to disappoint the crowd. I could not hear most of it. Inside, the sound quality was a lot different from outside. Like, I could barely hear the crowd. I couldn't hear any of the sort of the on-field announcements. I could not hear 21 Pilots. I could hear the cannon. The cannon, oh boy, was the cannon loud, even from inside.
Oh, fantastic. Because my next question was going to be to you about, hey, what was it like getting to experience the cannon 6 times?
The cannon
Because
was awesome.
did they play it at the start of the game as
They
well?
played it at the start of the game. I think they might have shot it for the win afterwards. And then, of course, the Jackets scored 5 goals. Um, so we got to hear a lot of the cannon. Although 2 of those goals were pretty close together, so I don't know if they caught it twice. Um, but either way, it's one of the best goal gimmicks in the league. Actually, it's the best goal gimmick in the league. Um, and it was really cool, and it was so loud, and it just really made the environment feel even more cohesive somehow. Like, I'm all for the canon. I'm a canon truther. It was great.
Yeah, and it's a shame that you couldn't really hear the canon, but like also as well at the same time, it's like okay, if you couldn't really hear the canon just because of like the nature of the press
Oh no,
box at
I could hear the
Ohio
canon.
State's,
I couldn't hear anything else.
you,
The canon was the
but you
only thing loud enough to come through.
now just imagine that like experiencing that like because you can hear it on the broadcast like when you watch Columbus games and stuff, but like imagine hearing that like in I can't remember the name of where they play
Nationwide.
act nationwide. Like imagine hearing that like in like an enclosed arena.
Gotta bring headphones for that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like no surprise that when like that goalies do not like the cannon. Very notably, do not like the cannon.
Yeah.
But yes, Stadium Series. I like okay. My like now this is not so much about this year's Stadium Series, but more so just about like outdoor games in general. I I feel like the novelty of them has kind of worn off just because we get what like 2, 3 every year,
Yeah.
and like they're cool if you go to them in person because you know you're all standing in like a giant stadium with a bunch of people freezing your ass off and you're like yeah hockey the way it's meant to be played outdoors pond hockey let's go. um but like if you're the viewing experience on TV for outdoor games sucks because the camera angles are always wider so you can't see like anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not can't see anything, but it's like more difficult. As someone who wears glasses, I don't enjoy it. And also as well, like the lighting is different because you can't actually properly light the ice, so it's just the shadows are weird. And all that. But so that's just I don't know. That's what I want to say about like outdoor games. Like I don't know, maybe we should get more Canadian teams in outdoor games. Is what I'm
Yes.
saying as well because I
That's
feel like
true.
we
Stop giving them
don't do it enough.
to the Bruins and the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Please.
Why do we keep doing that? I don't know.
Sick
I
of
just
it.
think like do like Habs and like ooh, you could do like Habs Colorado like in Quebec City. I don't know
Ooh,
where in
the
Quebec City you would do it. I don't know if they have like an outdoor like stadium of some sort that's big enough or like even do like Habs Colorado and like Montreal somewhere. Like that's another thing is like a lot of American like cities actually have like the football stadiums, which and like baseball stadiums and stuff. But I don't know. That's my thought. We could sit here and like hypotheticalize outdoor games for like an hour. Um,
yeah,
but we
but that
won't.
that that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other thing where we have Cody back on this summer and we have Cody back on the show like in the summer where we can sit here and talk about things that most people usually don't care about in the middle of the season for like 2 hours. Like, I don't know,
Hold on.
like,
Don't bring anything up, or we're just gonna start talking about it.
yeah, exactly. You guys can guess what we would talk about in the summer as it is. But I think we'll end the show here unless anyone else has anything else to add. And I will close out the show if not.
Don't think so.
Perfect. Yeah. Cody, where can the people find you besides on offsidenewscode.com talking about the Chicago Blackhawks and sometimes the Toronto Maple Leafs?
So you can find me most of the time on Twitter. I'm at Sasha GZ97. You can also find me on Blue Sky. I'm Nikita GZ97. Or you can hunt me down in person, but I won't tell you where I am. So you got to be real clever about that.
As you said it like maybe like 15 minutes ago.
My whereabouts
No,
are uncertain and always changing.
always changing. But yes, so also as well, I'll link that all down in the show notes because I'm really good with that actually. Um I've never forgotten. Actually, no, I haven't. But yes, in the meantime, thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back on Thursday to discuss the Leafs playing 2 games. And hopefully nothing more.
And hopefully, nothing more. Thank
Actually,
you guys so much for having me on.
yeah, thank you for
It's
coming.
fun.
You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, or you can also follow the show on Twitter so you never miss another episode at From the Fourth Line. That's fourth with the number 4 TH. This show is affiliated with Offside News. It's an Offside News podcast. You can find Offside News Co. on all social platforms at Offside News Co. or also as well on the internet where you can read a bunch of articles, including some written by Cody at offsidenewsco.com. And if you missed Marcie and I between episodes, because we're absolutely hilarious, Cody can second that opinion.
I sure can.
You can also find the two of us on Twitter at 60 Leaves for Marcie, at PairB1 for myself. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back on Thursday. And in the meantime, go Leafs go.
Go Leafs go.
So let's go.